Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and, yeah, pretty controversial new idea in the world of software development. It's called vibe coding, and it's got everybody talking. So let's get right into what this is all about.
So just imagine this for a second. What if, instead of meticulously writing every single line of code, you could just talk to an AI? You could say, hey, build me a financial tracker, but make it feel really approachable and fun. That's the core idea here. It's not just about what the app does, it's about how it feels. So what is it exactly? Well, vibe coding is this new way of working, where the developer becomes more like a movie director. You're still providing the script, the functional stuff, but you're also handing over the mood board, the vibe. You specify the tone, the style, the whole feeling you're going for. And then a powerful AI agent takes all that direction and actually generates the software.
And you won't believe how fast this whole thing blew up. The term itself only appeared in February 2025, thanks to Andrej Karpathy. At first, it just meant, trusting what the AI spit out. But by March, just 1 month later, it was already slang for being kind of careless with AI. Then, by October, the conversation got a lot more serious, with folks like Simon Willison stepping in to propose a much more disciplined path forward.
Okay, so that's the backstory. But how in the world does an AI translate something as fuzzy as a vibe into actual working code? Let's pop the hood and see how this thing actually works.
To get from vibe to code, the system usually has 4 key stages. First, something called an intent parser reads your request and figures out what you want the app to do and what you want it to feel like. Then, an embedding engine translates that vibe, words like playful or professional, into math that the AI can actually understand. The real muscle is the agentic code generator, usually a big LLM, which plans, writes, and even corrects the code. And finally, and this is absolutely crucial, there's the feedback loop, where you, the developer, check the work and give high-level notes to guide the AI.
And here's a perfect example of that process. A developer asks for a to-do list for kids with a fun, cartoon-like vibe. The AI spits out a working version, complete with encouraging messages, but it's not quite there. So the developer gives feedback, make it more playful, add a mascot, and boom. Just like that, in seconds, the AI refactors the whole thing. This is iteration at the speed of thought.
So it's pretty easy to see the appeal, right? Speed, the creative freedom, it's enormous, which leads us to the huge promise of this technology.
So this is really the heart of it. The role of the developer completely changes. You go from being a mechanic, down in the weeds tightening every single bolt and screw, to being that high-level director. Your main job is the big picture, the vision, the overall feeling of the thing you're creating, while the AI handles the nitty-gritty.
And the early numbers, wow, they're just staggering. Some of the first reports are claiming that projects using this approach are seeing productivity boosts of up to 55%. That's not just a small improvement, that's a potential revolution in how fast we can turn ideas into reality.
But, and this is a really big but, it's not all smooth sailing. With that kind of speed comes a whole lot of risk, and the community is, well, right to be cautious. Faster isn't always better, and the data is starting to paint a much more complicated picture.
And get this, here's the twist. One controlled study found that when experienced developers used these tools, they actually took 19% longer to finish their tasks. They went in expecting a major speedup, but the time it took to review, debug, and correct the AI's work actually slowed them down.
And this poll really shows you just how divided everyone is. A massive 41% of developers are saying, nope, not touching it, mainly because of the security risks. They're worried about the AI introducing vulnerabilities they might not catch. Only about a quarter are actually using these tools successfully, which tells you we're still in the very, very early days.
And Simon Willison just nails the whole debate with this quote. He says, if an LLM writes all your code, but you've reviewed it, tested it, and you really get it, that's not vibe coding. That's just using a really smart typing assistant. The real danger, the vibe coding part, is when you blindly trust and accept what the AI gives you without that critical review. So, this all brings us to a much smarter, more nuanced way to look at this whole thing. It's not a simple good or bad situation. It's really about figuring out the right way to work with these incredibly powerful new tools. And the distinction couldn't be clearer. On one side, you have vibe coding, which is the careless, risky approach, just accepting whatever the AI produces. It can be super insecure. On the other side, you have vibe engineering. This is the professional, disciplined approach, where you take the AI's speed, but you surround it with all the best practices we already know: testing, planning, and serious code review.
Really, you can think of it as a spectrum of collaboration. On one end, you have full delegation, where you just give the AI a goal and walk away. A step down is guided delegation, where you set rules and review its work. Then there's active pairing. We are coding together in real time. And on the other end, you're just using the AI for expert advice, like a superpowered search engine. The future is probably going to be a mix of all of these.
So let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about changing how we write code. This could change how we create, well, everything. The implications here are just massive.
So where is all this headed? Well, we can probably expect coding environments built around just talking to them in plain English. We'll likely see specialized AIs, one that's an expert in making playful UIs, another that's a master of corporate security. We might even see whole teams of AIs working together on a project. But for any of this to work, it has to be built on a solid foundation of responsible rules for safety, quality, and ownership.
And that leaves us with this final, kind of mind-bending question. As AI gets better and better at figuring out how to build things, our role as creators is going to shift more and more to defining the what and the why. The future of human creativity might not be in the execution anymore, but in the intent, the vision, and of course, in the vibe.